Morning, everybody. Good morning. We're here for UFC Noche UFC. Fantastic fight card, 11 fights. We've got Valentina Shevchenko versus Alexa Grasso. 2. Grasso's holding that belt tightly. Out of those 11 fights, 7, I believe, are currently favored to end inside the distance. And we've got a number of Mexican fighters competing on this card. This fight, the UFC really pulled out the stops. They had a mariachi band playing during UFC ceremonial weigh-ins yesterday. They also expect a boisterous crowd that should be foaming at the mouth for this amazing fight card that we have, and it will be televised on ESPN. And check your local listings for details. But let's get into it, my brothers. First fight of the night, where we have Josephine Knutsson, who's taking on MikesMMAPicks. Knutsson did not earn the contract last time out due to her inability to finish in her Contender Series matchup. Now, she's taking on a MikesMMAPicks who was brutally knocked out by Bruna Silva or Bruna Brazil, for that matter. And you watch that head kick land on MikesMMAPicks. MikesMMAPicks is going to come out and look to grapple. This is a fighter, MikesMMAPicks, who, if she's able to get on top of her opponent, I've seen her transition in the past, but she's a fighter who should be at 95 pounds. Let's be realistic here. She's fighting at 115 pounds, and she is 5 feet tall and very thick. And I believe that if there was a 95-pound division, that would be where MikesMMAPicks would compete. Now, she lacks the striking acumen to compete at the UFC level. I watched her it looked like an exhibition boxing matchup with large boxing gloves. Looked horrific there. One thing I will say, man can grapple. She was out-grappled, though, and getting thrown around the octagon by Bruna Brazil. Knutsson here is going to be the pick, and I believe that she gets this done inside the distance. Now, I must say that if you are betting an inside the distance line on a fighter and the fight doesn't go the distance line is only a few cents difference. That's a situation we have here. This is a situation where I got in on Knutsson-Mann. Fight doesn't go the distance at plus 106. I'd rather hit that than the plus 120 on Knutsson. Who's to say there isn't an Agapova-esque gas out like she did versus Dobson back a few years ago? Knutsson should roll here, though. And I know there are no certainties in this game, but we locked in fight doesn't go the distance at a plus number. And you could also play Knutsson by TKO, KO if you'd like. Maybe that will give you a better number. But give me Knutsson to win this matchup. We have a number of comments pouring in here. I'll be getting to them shortly. Next fight, where we have the return of Alex Reyes. Alex Reyes coming in as the plus 400 underdog. This is a fighter, as you've probably seen on Twitter and in interviews. He's been on the shelf since 2017 when he was blown out of the water by Mike Perry. And he took that fight up at 170 pounds. Alex Reyes is a competent fighter. He was marching forward towards Mike Perry, got caught in the clinch, and then was annihilated. Here, you haven't seen this fighter compete in 6 years, and you're watching Charlie Campbell, who is looking to get it back against last time we saw him out, he was dominating Chris Duncan on Contender Series. I know he's gone on to win a fight in a regional promotion, but he has come back and he had his button pushed, Charlie Campbell, by Chris Duncan, was dominating the fight, then got overzealous and left himself open, got countered and dropped and then finished with a hammer fist. Hammer fist, was completely knocked out. Does Alex Reyes have the power at this stage in his game at 36 years of age to take out Charlie Campbell? Good question. Charlie Campbell, you watch his come up, Matt Serra, Ray Longo, etc. I will say Charlie Campbell reminds me a little bit of Drago, Pete Sell. I see a little bit of him, a little bit of Drago and Campbell here. Remember that Scott Smith fight? My gosh. But here we go. We're going to pick Charlie Campbell to win and win inside the distance. Charlie Campbell, though, look at that number, minus 535. That's a wide line, my brothers. Let's see. Evan, great to have you. I believe you are on JDM here. We will talk a little bit about that matchup in the near future, in a few minutes, rather. Luke, good morning. Great to see you. Donnie, yes. Hope we're hanging in there, man. We are hanging in there. I am recuperating from blowing my ankle out, and looks like I ruptured multiple ligaments in my ankle, and I am taking it one day at a time here. So you may see some additional content creation on my side over the next few weeks and months as I recover from this broken ankle and a number of I'm going to start the recovery process. But let's get into another matchup here where we have Tracy Cortez taking on Jasmine Jasudavicius. Jasudavicius coming in as the plus 114 underdog, and she is in her mid-30s here, but she began her career later than most folks. Look at the pro career for Jasmine, began in 2019, and she's taking on Tracy Cortez, who she's got some skills. I'll say that. She fights out of a great camp at Fight Ready. Doesn't necessarily have the best gas tank. Is somewhat undersized for the division. I know she's dropped weight classes recently, but still, Cortez, though she's got the lower half of her body has some muscularity to it, and Tracy Cortez, uses that to her advantage to land takedowns, and she also, when she's caught in tough spots, she will fight out of them, and she can sweep her opponents and reverse position. Now, Jasmine Jasudavicius is coming off of the win over Maverick and is on fire right now. Let's be honest. She was the self-proclaimed female GSP, and she's put on a show. I ridiculed that nickname. She's put some life back into it with a number of victories, and the crowd in Canada was really enjoying her efforts last time out, earning a victory in her mother country. In this spot, Jasudavicius is the longer, better striker. She also has the much better gas tank. Even you watch Cortez last time out, was running out of steam towards the end of that fight. That was a cause for concern while I was watching that bout unfold. Cortez, both of these fighters have solid records too. You look at them, 10-1 for Cortez, and Jasudavicius 9-2 overall record. But Cortez has fought the better competition. I'll be picking Jasmine Jasudavicius at a plus number here. I also have been contemplating making a play on Jasmine. The only one of the major drawbacks here, you also have to take into account, we talked about last week with the judging being an issue. I know that Cortez may have been gifted a win last time out in Phoenix, and here in Vegas with the Mexican crowd behind her, I believe that she could potentially, home cooking could be in play here. But I'll be picking Jasmine to win. Another thing I must mention too is you go back to last week's card, and Jamie Malarkey was able to walk away with a victory and get some home cooking there. And the crowd is a factor. They do sway judges in certain circumstances. I know they shouldn't, but it's obvious that they do. And Cortez has the ability to to do that if it's a very close fight. But I'll be picking Jasmine to win. I think that she has more gas in the tank. Also, the striking is on Jasmine's side. The wrestling should be Cortez's, and the coaching, the corner goes to Cortez as well. We've got a number of comments here. Yes, we're getting ready to go. Evan, good morning. Good morning. Let's continue this journey. Let's keep this Fight Morning quick card breakdown show rolling along, where we have flyweights, flyweight alert. Edgar Chairez taking on Daniel-Lacerda in a matchup where Edgar Chairez, one of the final fighters to the scale, he was, I believe there were 3 or 4 fighters left when he took the scale, or he was one of the final 3. And Chairez looked sucked out, coming in at -218. He's going to have the Mexican crowd behind him here, and he's going to have a Daniel-Lacerda who, I know he's said in interviews that he plans to fight in a much more composed manner, but let's be realistic. Can he manage that? Can Lacerda manage that for 15 minutes? Good question. But Lacerda, I will say, he looked phenomenal on the scale. He is the much more athletic fighter, the highly skilled fighter in this matchup. Also, I believe Lacerda has a number of tools at his disposal that could cause Chairez problems. The main issue for Lacerda is in between the ears. He tends to throw caution to the wind, put himself in bad spots, and then gas himself out real quick, searching for the kill. I'm tempted to play Lacerda here, but he's 0-4 in matchups that were winnable matchups. All 4 of those fights. I mean, you're losing to Jeff Molina, one of the bottom of the barrel fighters who's no longer with the promotion. And man, I'm going to be picking Lacerda here. The problem I have is if Chairez is able to establish the body lock in the early second round, if Lacerda looks like he's gassing out and the writing's on the wall, lock in Chairez at some point there. But I'll be picking Lacerda to win. I think that this is his fight. This is his fight. This is do or die. He's got to risk it all here, but also fight composed. And I don't know if he's capable of pulling that off. We haven't seen that yet in his career. Highly skilled, yes, but questionable in-fight decision-making is a cause for concern. And correct, JP, Chairez looked rough yesterday. That I echo your sentiment. Now, let's talk Roman Kopylov and Josh Fremd, where we have Josh Fremd coming in as the plus 260 underdog, coming off of a win over Jamie Pickett, which doesn't necessarily say much. He gave Fluffy Hernandez a run for his money and hung in that fight. Fremd, one thing, much larger fighter here, much more dense fighter. Kopylov, questionable ground game. Also, that face, that nose, man, has been smushed in for the past few years, and Puna Soriano wasn't able to get it done. By the way, man, you talk about a fighter who has been basically fraud checked. Puna Soriano has really, what the heck happened to that guy? No gas, and just at this level, you have to be able to compete for 15 minutes. And Kopylov, we've seen he's been able to face adversity and come out the other side with victories. Also, from a striking perspective, his distance management, I've been very impressed watching that. And Josh Fremd, when I watch Josh Fremd fight, he reminds me of, his stand-up at least reminds me of Fabricio Verdum's stand-up when he's moving around out there, holds his hands in the same manner, and the way he closes distance isn't necessarily pretty on Fremd's part. Kopylov, the much better striker, but Fremd, he has a competent ground game, and if the fight gets there, he could potentially wear Kopylov down. But I'm going to be picking Roman Kopylov. I have no action on this bout. I'm not going to be touching Kopylov over -300. I think that Fremd has the potential to come in here and cause Kopylov problems if Kopylov is not able to get him out of there. And Fremd will fight hard for your money. I believe he also trains at Elevation. And Fremd is a 11-4 fighter. But the challenge here too is Jamie Pickett was in that fight to a certain degree at moments, and Josh Fremd has no qualms jumping guillotine, and we've seen that cost him against Pickett. He had to Pickett pops his head out, and then he's on top. I don't know if Kopylov's going to end up caught in a guillotine here, but I just don't like watching poor fight IQ play out. But I'll be picking Kopylov to win there. Good morning, Nicholas. Thank you for the support. Ryan, another great Saturday. By the way, if you guys have any questions about the fights, just pop them in there. Yes, Fremd is with Mark Montoya at Factory X, fighting at Elevation, Colorado. So give me Kopylov, but I do not have a lot of faith in Kopylov here, and that number is a little too wide for my liking. Lupita Godinez versus Elise Reed. Elise Reed, who was completely obliterated and blown out of the water by Sujara Eubanks. By the way, folks, there are some folks in the community who don't put any stock in weigh-in results and how fighters look at the scales. I remember Aspen Ladd had issues on the scale. She's no longer with the promotion. Sujara Eubanks had issues on the scale, no longer with the promotion. So if a fighter can't make it to the fight, that's a major red flag for me. And it's happened multiple times to those fighters. So yes, that is cause for concern occasionally. It's a small piece of the puzzle, but it is a piece of the puzzle nonetheless. And Elise Reed was completely annihilated up a weight class against Sujara Eubanks. She's back down at 115 pounds. You go look and watch Elise Reed's fights. Corey McKenna fought a horrific game plan, but when she eventually tried to get takedowns, she was able to do so against Elise Reed. You watch Loma Lookboonmee ragdoll Elise Reed on the mat and get her first submission. Loma Lookboonmee is not she's a Muay Thai fighter. She's not a wrestler by trade. I know she put in time with the Hickman brothers, etc., but come on now. Elise Reed manhandled on the mat many times, and Lupita Godinez, although she hasn't necessarily used her wrestling, I think this crowd tonight is going to push her over the finish line. Also, as far as striking goes, I believe Godinez does have a slight edge in the striking. The power definitely that goes to Godinez. The heart, the will to win goes to Godinez. I go back to that Angela Hill fight though, and that was a major red flag for me. That was a cause for concern. I think that did light a fire under Godinez. And you also watch the post-fight interviews. Godinez shared that in that Angela Hill bout, she took that bout on 2-week notice at a catch weight, and she came into that fight off of the Carnelossi victory, and she shared after the fact that she injured her hip during the Carnelossi fight, and that was the reason she did not pursue the wrestling and opted to have a stand-up affair and lose to Angela Hill. So I'm not overthinking this. I'm on Godinez here at minus 370 now, and I may potentially add more depending on where the line goes. I only have risked 100. I risked a unit and a half. So minus 370 on Godinez. Now, how do you want to play this fight? Does she get the finish? Elise Reed hasn't lost a decision in her mixed martial arts career. Granted, who has she faced? She's been submitted or taken out of the fight 3 times, finished 3 times in all of her losses. And Godinez does have a solid ground game if she pursues that. She uses force to lock in submissions, and she's just the much more physical fighter here, much more imposing fighter. And I think she's going to be like a dog chomping on the bit here coming out after Elise Reed. I'll be picking Godinez to win, and I'm looking forward to that matchup. Let's see. Let's see. 6 p.m. Central for the early prelims. Okay. Why is the fight higher on the card than Cortez versus Jasmine? Potential finish. I think these two are going to throw down, but you're going to see Lupita Godinez ragdolling Elise Reed at times and potentially earning a finish, but she could also end up crossing the finish line via decision. I'll be picking Godinez to win. Next up, we've got Fernando Padilla taking on Kyle Nelson. This is a tricky fight. Fernando Padilla, who is the much, much longer, lankier fighter, and he uses his reach very, very well. He also uses his length on the mat, too. And Kyle Nelson, and this is a guy who's come out and proved a lot of people wrong numerous times. I remember I had a bet on Jai Herbert and Kyle Nelson, fight doesn't go the distance. And look what happened there. Kyle Nelson hung in that fight, crossed the finish line, ended up losing, but he turned into a grappler, and he had no qualms living against the fence in the clinch and just stalling and trying to grapple his way to victories, tried to stay out of some tough positions. He's also a fighter who has been in there against Duho Choi, a number of fighters. One of the fighters from Fortis MMA, who's getting up there in age, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu fighter. And Padilla is somebody who's going to throw caution to the wind at times. He's not the prettiest striker, and he's also still young in his career here. I do not have faith in either fighter. I think there's potential that this fight doesn't go the distance. I see it at minus 225. But the thing is, Kyle Nelson has no problem. He's tough, too. Kyle Nelson's tough. Billy Q really drowned him in their matchup. I don't think Padilla has the pace to do that. I'll be picking Padilla to win, but not with much confidence. I think that Kyle Nelson is live here, and if he's able to find the button of Padilla, that could be a recipe for disaster if folks have parlayed Padilla there. So give me Padilla to win, but I did not touch this fight from a betting perspective. Next up, where we have Daniel Zellhuber. Zellhuber taking on Grasso-Giagos. Grasso-Giagos has been around for a long, long time. I remember when he was losing to Chris Wade, and he was a prospect back then, but is a dog and can wrestle and has some grappling chops, and also is at a great camp at Killcliff. Giagos coming as a plus 235 underdog and does have somewhat of a kryptonite of Zellhuber, who has ran into some adversity when he's tried to engage in the grappling. Zellhuber can get caught on the bottom, can get caught in the headlights, has faltered under the bright lights before, and a cause for concern. I've watched a lot of Zellhuber's interviews. One of them, he said he was nervous during the Trey Ogden fight, and there's no reason you should be losing to Trey Ogden at this level. I know that he has since rectified things against Lando Venata, but Zellhuber, he did not look great there. And even in the Venata fight, Venata was having his moments. I believe it was the right hand of Venata when he was closing distance. He was able to land on Zellhuber. Zellhuber has a solid chin. So if I'm making a play on this fight, it's likely Zellhuber late. Grasso-Giagos coming off of the win over Ricky Glenn, where he was able to earn a knockout over a tough guy in Ricky Glenn. Now, Zellhuber, how does he win this fight? War of attrition? That's a possibility. Attempting to get back up to his feet and landing elbows in the clinch. Also, the volume down the stretch, the body kicks, using his length, but he's going to have to find range. He's going to have to stay at range here. I have concerns for Zellhuber here, but I'll be picking him to win. see Christos-Giagos being live, especially early. But look out for Zellhuber to win this fight via knockout. That's something that I have the late props. I'm eyeing up the late props. I've been eyeing them up for the past few days, and there are some books, certain books you look at. If you wanted Knutsson inside the distance, a lot of books, those are obscure lines that don't get released until very late in the week. You could find Mann inside the distance to finish, but not Knutsson. And this is a fight also where Zellhuber, you wait on the late props, and also live betting opportunity galore here. If Giagos gets out to an early start and is able to put Zellhuber against the fence and have any level of success, then keep an eye on hammering Zellhuber here. So give me Zellhuber to win, but I see that Giagos, not only does he fight out of a great fight camp, but he also has faced some high level competition. And yes, he has gassed in the past. So give me Zellhuber late props. We've got a number of, yes, Carlos Diego Ferreira, I was talking about when we were discussing a previous matchup when we were talking about Kyle Nelson. Great call there. So let's talk about Raul Rosas Jr. against Terrence Mitchell. Raul Rosas Jr. is coming into this fight massive favorite off of the win off of the loss to C-Rod. Christian Rodriguez. Can't wait to see Christian Rodriguez back inside of an octagon near you soon. And he's taking on Terrence Mitchell, who was getting manhandled by Cameron Simon, who's not necessarily known as a grappler. And Raul Rosas, this is a setup fight here, if I've ever seen one. By the way, talk about the previous matchup. If it ends up going to the cards, Zellhuber, the judges could potentially be a factor. Sons, leave the door open. I do not like hearing the door squeak. Thank you. Raul Rosas Jr. in this spot, I believe this is a setup fight. Not only, I believe the crowd is going to be a factor here. Terrence Mitchell, he could come out with a few fight-ending sequences to give himself the best shot at victory, but sooner or later, I believe Raul Rosas Jr. is going to take the back of Terrence Mitchell. He's likely pursuing a grappling-heavy approach, as he has done in many instances. He was able to put C-Rod in some tough spots. Thank goodness C-Rod had some great submission defense, fighting the hands when the body lock was in, and he was against the fence, standing up. Man, so Raul Rosas Jr., not only inside the distance, but also I hit the round one prop, only risked a half a unit at -177. And then I also play the under 1.5, small, half a unit. But the odds on this fight, there's so many juiced lines here. And the other thing is, yes, Raul Rosas Jr. likely wins via submission, but also Terrence Mitchell, as we've seen, he could get grapevine, could get flattened out and pounded from while he's on his back or while he's on his belly. Man, I'll be picking Rosas Jr. to win inside the distance, and at this stage, I don't necessarily believe he's a parlay piece in the -800s. That's unnecessary risk at this juncture. By the way, I hope the coffee is flowing well where you are. Thank you for tuning in today. So give me Raul Rosas Jr. to win inside the distance. And let's talk the co-main event of the evening. Let's see. Yes, that line is crazy. Raul is 18 years old. This is his third fight in the UFC, and he's still only 18 years old. Raul Rosas, KO, TKO, or submission. Now, I need to mention that when you are looking for these props, that there are times when you see the TKO prop, you see the submission prop, but then you aren't offered the to win inside the distance prop. And I see Raul Rosas Jr. now, that's been blown out all the way to minus 450 or so. So I think that's a little too wide for my liking. But I'll be picking Rosas Jr. to win inside the distance. I like the round one and under 1.5. Now, co-main event of the evening. Kevin Holland versus Jack Della Maddalena. I love this matchup. This is a situation where the rubber meets the road. You've got a solid veteran in Kevin Holland who has shown questionable fight IQ at times, but is a very highly skilled fighter. Perhaps the striking isn't at the same level and as crisp as Jack Della's, and I agree with that. But you also have a Kevin Holland who has made questionable in-fight decisions multiple times throughout his historic UFC career. We saw it against GM3. We've seen it against many, many other opponents. The Wonder Boy one does it for me. I believe I had 2 units on Kevin Holland at plus money versus Wonder Boy. And when that fight hit the mat, I was like, all right, this is what you've been waiting for. Stay there. And then he ends up standing up out of Wonder Boy's guard and opting to please the crowd and loses a striking war to Wonder Boy. Now, has he learned from that? I believe he has. The Michael Chiesa fight, you watch that back. Yes, that did happen. Kevin Holland does have multiple paths to victory here. He's got massive reach advantage. If he's able to keep this fight on the outside for significant lengths of time, Jack Della Maddalena, he does his best work in the pocket, and he relies on his opponent making mistakes, and he capitalizes on them. Great counter striker. Jack will fight hard for your money. He's one of the fighters who I've gone to the well, and I've made money on both of these fighters throughout the years. Holland via submission against Tim Means, that was a huge cash for us. And Jack here, he has one path to victory as far as I'm concerned. Well, actually, maybe 2. The potential for a knockout against Kevin Holland, who's been tough as nails, especially if he starts working the body of Holland. That's one. And then also, if he's able to drop Holland and Holland is making some unforced errors of his own and chatting with the crowd in the corner and losing that way. So those are the 2 ways I see Kevin Holland losing and Jack Della Maddalena winning the fight. But on the other side of the fight, you've got Kevin Holland, who has the ground game that is light years ahead of Jack Della Maddalena. And also the scrambling ability of Kevin Holland is a factor. The length of Kevin Holland, if this fight hits the mat, is another factor here. The Ameev fight, how Jack has been able to fight through submissions in the past, his submission defense. It's beautiful to watch somebody who will not give up on themselves, and Jack won't. But also, I have to mention this. If you watch the show this far in, we're 33 minutes in. The reality is Jack Della Maddalena flew all the way across the world. He was the last fighter to the scales, the final fighter to weigh in, and he needed the curtain to make 171 pounds. I think that goes against Jack here. That's something that can be held against him. I got in at Kevin Holland at plus 130, and I believe Holland has multiple paths to victory. He's incredibly durable, Kevin Holland. I believe he learned from the Wonder Boy fight, and that he is going to come out guns blazing. The Trailblazer is going to come out guns blazing here, but he has to mind his P's and Q's, and Jack is going to be engaged in a firefight here. I believe this is close to a pick'em. I hit the plus 130 number. I thought that if you're giving me a plus 130 in a fight that is a coin toss, and I slightly lean Holland. I'd say minus 130 or so, 140. That should be the line for Kevin Holland here. But I laid one unit at plus 130 on Kevin Holland, and I am at peace with the number. I like the number, but I root for both of these fighters. Both of these fighters, I have a tremendous amount of respect for. Let's see. We've got a lot of comments here. Starbucks Sumatra is hot and delicious this morning. Okay. Holland by club and sub. Well, we haven't gotten into the grappling issues. I know this is JDM's third weight cut, and that he did almost fall short against a grappler last time out who didn't have any striking whatsoever. I don't think Kevin Holland can keep range for a full 15 minutes. I agree. JDM's a very smart fighter. Kevin Holland at plus money is his spot. Let's see. Interesting. All right. So I'll be picking Kevin Holland to win. I'm really looking forward to that matchup. I can't wait for that tonight. I think that I say it in the past, questions will be answered. Questions will most definitely be answered tonight. Now, my goal is to get this breakdown done in under 40 minutes. We're at 36 minutes right now. Fight Morning Quick Card Breakdown Show. If you wouldn't mind subscribing to the channel as well as liking the video, that would be a big help for our growth here. I believe I'm at 560 or so subscribers. Been doing this for many, many, many years. And the track record, the third-party track record, something that I'm very proud of. I pick my spots, and I have been successful. This is our 6th consecutive winning year, third-party track. A lot of folks out there put out content and are actually losing bettors. So just be aware, be mindful of that. And also everything in moderation. That's I know scared money don't make money, but pick your spots and do your thing. One step, one fight at a time. Let's talk main event of the evening. Alexa Grasso versus Valentina Shevchenko 2. And they run it back. Shevchenko, I watched the fight back numerous times, and I know that Shevchenko was a massive favorite last time headed into that matchup. And here, very closely lined affair. Alexa Grasso, much younger fighter. She's somebody who will fight hard for your money. She was getting dominated, though, on the mat. Shevchenko was able to put Grasso on her back early and often. You could see there was a gap in the skill set there. And now Shevchenko getting up there in age. Once her grappling started to, once her shots became more telegraphed, she started to run into some issues late in the fight. And then also that spinning attack, reminiscent of Chris Weidman versus Luke Rockhold, sealed the deal for Alexa Grasso, who was able to just hop onto Shevchenko's back and lock in the rear naked choke. There wasn't much skill involved in that besides the timing of Grasso to capitalize on Shevchenko's catastrophic error. But this fight, though, they run it back. Grasso looks like she's added some muscle. She's going to have the crowd on her side big time here. And she's got the confidence of winning. That is a factor here. That is a real factor. And I believe that Alexa Grasso is live here to win this fight. Obviously, she won the first fight, but if Shevchenko gets extended here, then Grasso, I believe, will come alive. I think that Shevchenko, she took this loss extremely personal last time out, and you see she's like a soldier, completely dialed in. And I have concern about Shevchenko potentially gassing herself out here. I think that is a possibility here. I'm going to be picking Shevchenko here. And I need to say this also. As long as there is delusion, there is hope. So a lot of folks out there in life, in all facets of life, if you believe in something, then there's a possibility. I mean, it may be completely wild, but if you believe it, you're going to go for it. And that gives folks a lot of confidence. And Grasso, she won that fight last time out, and I believe that she's going to Believe that she's the better fighter here, and she's going to put her best forward and give herself a shot here. So that's a dangerous fighter, somebody who believes in themselves. I'll be picking Valentina Shevchenko, though. I think that this number is solid, but I'm hesitant to actually make a play on this fight because there comes a time when fighters do reach their shelf life, and that may have been the peak of Shevchenko, and Grasso's much, much younger, and she's going for it here. So my advice to folks is proceed with caution. The Lobo Gym is solid. JP says fight goes the distance this time. I think so. But you know what, though? I believe Grasso was caught in a crucifix position at one point. You need to be dominant grappling to obtain that position, secure that position. That's one of the most dominant positions. That and getting a twister on somebody. If you have somebody in the crucifix, and you're raining down elbows on them, that's something to behold. So I'm going to be picking Shevchenko here. We're at the 41-minute mark. Want to thank everybody for tuning in. Make sure to like and subscribe. And again, let's take this one fight at a time. Be aware for live betting opportunities. If you do see Shevchenko start to falter late, that is an opportunity to get in there. But I'll be picking Shevchenko to get this fight done. Enjoy the fights. Remember to go get with Chairez, my friends. Let's do this.